Have you ever stepped into a stranger's car and realized, far too late, that something wasn't right? Most people assume danger announces itself with flashing warning signs. The truth is far quieter than that. Sometimes it begins with an ordinary notification on your phone, a familiar logo, a driver a few minutes away, and a ride you expect to forget before you even get home. For one man, a routine trip after a night out in 2014 became the most terrifying experience of his life. Years later, he still couldn't explain exactly what the driver intended to do. All he knew was that if a single traffic light hadn't turned red at the right moment, he might never have made it home. Back in 2014, I depended on Uber more than most people. I'd lost the ability to drive for 12 months after a DUI conviction. It was a reckless mistake that changed my routine overnight. So whenever I wanted to go anywhere, especially on weekends, I relied on friends, taxis, or ride-sharing. There was a nightclub in my town where my friends and I spent many Friday and Saturday nights. Sometimes one of us stayed sober and drove everyone home. Other nights we'd split an Uber and think nothing of it. On this particular night, though, I wasn't feeling well. I decided to leave before everyone else. It was somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and the cold had become unbearable. Walking home wasn't an option. The streets were nearly empty, and the freezing wind cut straight through my jacket as I stood outside the club. I opened the Uber app and requested a ride. A driver named Alex appeared almost immediately. He was only about 2 miles away. His profile picture made me hesitate for just a second. He looked older than most drivers I'd had before. He wasn't smiling. A gray goatee framed a hard-looking face, and he wore a black beanie pulled low over his head. There wasn't anything I could point to and say was wrong, but something about the picture felt unsettling. Still, he had good ratings, and he was close. I dismissed the feeling as paranoia. According to the app, he drove a Chevy Malibu. That sounded perfectly normal. I waited outside beside a security guard who stood silently near the entrance like a statue, arms folded as crowds slowly disappeared into the night. About 5 minutes later, a silver Chevy Malibu rolled slowly towards the curb. Only then did I realize it wasn't the newer model I'd imagined. It looked old, worn out. The paint had faded, and the entire car looked as though it had survived far too many winters. Something about it immediately lowered my confidence. But I was cold, tired, and I just wanted to get home. The driver didn't wave. He didn't call my name. He didn't even sound the horn. He simply sat there with the engine running, staring straight ahead. I walked over, opened the rear door, and climbed into the back seat. The silence inside the car felt strangely heavy. Normally, drivers greeted me with a quick hello or confirmed my name before pulling away. This man didn't even turn around. For several uncomfortable seconds, all I could hear was the quiet hum of the engine. Finally, in an almost whisper, he spoke. "Where you headed?" I gave him my address. Without another word, he pulled away from the nightclub. For the first minute, everything seemed ordinary. Then I noticed we were traveling in the wrong direction. At first, I assumed he'd missed a turn or was following his navigation. "Hey, my place is actually the other way," I said. He didn't answer. At the next junction, he turned left, but instead of returning towards the main road, he drove deeper into quiet residential streets I'd never normally use. The neighborhood grew darker with every turn. Streetlights became less frequent. The roads became emptier. Something else caught my attention. His phone wasn't mounted on the dashboard. There was no navigation running. He hadn't entered my address at all. That realization made my stomach tighten. Unsure whether he expected directions, I opened the Maps app on my own phone and entered my address. I turned the volume up so the GPS voice could guide him. A few moments later, the navigation instructed us to turn left. He drove straight past the junction without slowing. I looked up, confused, making an instinctive gesture with my hand. That's when he finally responded. "I just gotta make a quick stop," he muttered. "Don't worry, I'll give you a discount." The words sent a chill through me that had nothing to do with the weather outside. Even after drinking earlier that night, my thoughts suddenly became crystal clear. Every instinct I had was screaming that something was terribly wrong. As I glanced towards the front of the car, another detail froze me in place. Partially sticking out beside the center glove compartment was a handgun. It wasn't hidden very well. It was simply there, within easy reach of the driver. The atmosphere inside that aging Malibu instantly changed. My pulse began hammering against my ribs. The quiet streets outside suddenly felt endless. And for the first time since climbing into the car, I wasn't thinking about getting home anymore. I was thinking about getting out alive. The driver kept moving farther away from my neighborhood. The familiar roads had disappeared completely. By then I was convinced we'd traveled through multiple towns. Every passing minute made the situation feel more hopeless. I considered calling the police. My phone was already in my hand. But every time I looked at the gun sitting beside him, I imagined what might happen if he noticed me dialing emergency services. The risk felt too great. I needed another way out. Almost absent-mindedly, I reached for the inside door handle. I barely applied any pressure. Nothing happened. I tried again, more carefully. Still nothing. The door refused to open. That's when I realized the child's safety lock had been switched on. The sound of my own breathing suddenly became impossible to ignore. My heartbeat echoed inside my ears. I forced myself to stay calm, pretending nothing had changed while my mind raced through every possible escape. Eventually, I noticed the child lock control position near the driver's seat. If I could somehow reach it, I might be able to open the rear door. But getting there meant moving across the back seat directly behind him. If he saw me shifting position, I had no idea how he'd react. Every movement had to look natural. I watched him through the rearview mirror, never taking my eyes off his reflection. When his attention stayed fixed on the road, I slowly slid across the seat, millimeter by millimeter, trying not to make a sound. The seconds stretched endlessly. Every bump in the road felt deafening. I expected him to glance into the mirror at any moment. He never did. Finally, I was directly behind him. Now came the hardest part. I couldn't reach the switch while the car was moving. I had to wait for another red light. Each green light we passed increased the pressure. Each junction felt like another opportunity slipping away. The streets remained almost deserted. There was no traffic, no pedestrians, no one to notice if anything happened inside that car. Then, at last, a traffic signal ahead changed from green to yellow. The Malibu slowed towards an intersection that would normally be crowded during the day. For the first time in what felt like forever, another vehicle waited on the opposite side of the crossroads. Seeing another person nearby gave me the smallest spark of hope. I knew this traffic light wouldn't stay red for long. Whatever I was going to do, it had to happen now. The car rolled to a complete stop. Time seemed to freeze. My entire body felt tense, every muscle ready to move before my mind had even finished making the decision. I leaned forward as quietly as I could and reached towards the illuminated child lock switch. The instant my hand entered his peripheral vision, everything exploded into motion. The driver jerked violently in his seat. He shouted at the top of his lungs, his voice filled with panic and anger. Before I could even understand what he was saying, his right hand lunged towards the handgun lying beside him. It was exactly what I'd feared would happen. Adrenaline took over. I slammed the child lock, grabbed the handle, and this time the rear door swung open. Cold air rushed into the car. I threw myself outside and started running without looking back. Just a short distance away sat a Cadillac Escalade stopped near the intersection. Certain that the people inside would help, I sprinted straight towards it. I pounded desperately against the windows. "Please, help me." The occupants looked at me and drove away. For a split second, I couldn't believe it. Then I looked back towards the Malibu. The silver car was already accelerating down the road. Within seconds, it disappeared around the corner and into the darkness. I didn't wait to see if it would return. I kept running. Every shadow looked threatening. Every distant engine sounded as though it might belong to him. Eventually, I spotted the bright lights of a grocery store that stayed open 24 hours a day. I rushed through the entrance, breathing so hard I could barely speak. Only once I was safely inside, surrounded by employees and customers, did I finally begin to feel the slightest sense of relief. Instead of requesting another Uber, I called for a taxi. While waiting, I realized something strange. Earlier that evening I'd been drinking, but standing there inside the shop, I didn't feel drunk anymore. The fear had wiped away every trace of intoxication. The taxi ride home passed in complete silence. I watched every passing car through the window, half expecting that silver Malibu to appear again. When I finally reached home, I couldn't stop replaying every moment in my mind. The wrong turns, the missing navigation, the excuse about making a quick stop, the child's safety lock, the handgun sitting within arm's reach. None of it felt accidental anymore. As soon as I had collected myself, I reported the entire incident to Uber. I explained everything in as much detail as I could remember, from the driver's behavior to the route he'd taken and the moment he reached for the weapon after I tried escaping. The company assured me they would escalate the report to the appropriate authorities. I expected someone to contact me almost immediately. Instead, nearly a full week passed. Then one day there was a knock at my front door. A police officer had come to ask questions about what had happened that night. I answered everything honestly, hoping it might help identify the driver or prevent something similar from happening to someone else. After that interview, however, I never heard another update. No follow-up call, no explanation, no information about whether Alex had been located, questioned, or removed from the platform. To this day, I have absolutely no idea what became of him. I don't know whether he was arrested. I don't know whether anyone else reported similar behavior. And I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't managed to unlock that rear door at the exact moment the traffic light turned red. Some questions never receive answers. Sometimes the only thing you're left with is the memory of how close you came to something you still can't fully explain. Years have passed since that freezing night in 2014, but one decision has never changed. I've never used Uber again. Every time I see someone climb into a rideshare vehicle without a second thought, I remember the silence inside that aging Chevy Malibu, the empty roads leading farther and farther away from home, and the terrifying moment a stranger reached for a gun as I fought to escape. I made it home that night, but the feeling that something far worse was only seconds away has never truly left me.